Thank you very much, and I'll be brief, reasonably brief. I'd like to say it's been great for me being here at a personal level. I was in Montreal in 1972. That was the last time I was here. I was a young teacher. I'd just got a promotion and I had some money in my pocket. It was before I was married. And I went on a Greyhound bus journey right across Canada. And, had the thrill of seeing this great city, the mist on the Lake Superior at breakfast time on the bus stop, with the logs rolling there. It's an image I'll never forget. The Rockies, going through strange places with great names. Medicine Hat, something out of a cowboy novel to a boy from Scotland, I can tell you. Moose Jaw, great names. What a country. So eventually I got to the Pacific and felt the excitement of the Pacific Ocean. It was the first time I'd ever seen it, so I'll never forget that either. So I know this is a great country in every sense of the word, and it's great to be here. I'm going to give you a little test first of all. I don't know if we can still vote. Can we still vote? Is that possible?
I don't know.
C'est possible? I don't know. Okay, it's no problem. I was going to ask you if you knew who this lady was, right? You might say Marie Curie, or I don't know. But it's an unfair question because it's my grandmother, right? Okay. What we call in Scotland our granny, grand-mère, maternal, grand-mère maternal. And I'm using my lovely grandmother. She looks like an aristocrat, but she was a poor woman from the Isle of Skye and the Hebrides who lived in a little house with no chimney and came to Glasgow because of poverty, looking for work. And she was born in 1878, right? So that was a big decade because in Scotland, compulsory education started in 1872. So when she went to school, she benefited from an education from age 5 to age 14, as did the next generation, our parents. See what I'm doing here, forward. And this is the same lady at the end of her life, and the wee boy is me, as you've maybe guessed. As you can see, I have a feminine side as well, okay? And not only that, when I showed my older sister the photograph, she didn't know it existed. My older sister, I just recently made this as a digital copy from, I didn't have the negative, obviously, but I've got a good digital camera, and that's it. And she said to me, "That's my sweater." So not only was I wearing a skirt, I had a hand-me-down from my older sister. So I'm happy to show you my feminine side as well. Okay. The serious point, though, is there she is at the end of her life. She's got on her National Health Service spectacles. The National Health Service started in 1948, and that picture probably was taken 1952 or 53, whether I'm 6 or 7, something like that. So it gives you an idea of the progression in her life. But she had a full education. She had 11 children. 4 of them died. Absolutely typical of early 20th century public health. Infectious disease, poor nutritional standards, meaning the maternal milk wasn't as good as it would be, and all the rest of it. And of course, that story reminds you of a developing country. That was 100 years, 130 years ago in Scotland, but it's where some countries are today. In fact, it's better than where some countries are today. That's the image of school meals. The health-promoting school's a new idea, yes, and we've been hearing about lots of great ideas springing from it, and it's evolving from the 1980s. The natives are getting restless around there. However, it's interesting to note that health and education were interacting then. When Scotland, like many countries, introduced education for all in 1872, most countries were a little bit later, we were quite early, One of the ways to get children to attend school was to provide them with footwear, see the children in their bare feet, and to give them some food. That was an inducement to get them there. So the idea is not new. It's just evolved and changed, and we've given it new names. So maybe it's good to take that long view. And there's the modern equivalent today, school my own children attended. So in terms of the world picture, the International Union for Health Promotion and Education, Claire is the staff member here and doing great work, and I'm one of the two school consultants. The other one is Laurie St. Ledger from Deakin University, Australia. Laurie couldn't be here, but it's great that the work continues. And a priority for them is working with developing countries where these ideas are at an early stage of development. Not only that, you probably know the Millennium Development Goals, but number 2 is about providing universal education. But it's only primary education. Not that I'm underestimating the importance of that. It's vital, absolutely. But we're nowhere near that in Africa, although there's good signs. It's one of the Millennium Development Goals that there's been most progress on, which is great. Let's be positive about that. And 10 countries have improved their net enrollment by more than 25% since the last time they monitored the statistics 5 years ago. These are up-to-date statistics that are available on the web if you want to see them yourself. And countries like Malawi, Rwanda, Togo, Tunisia, and so on, they've got up to 90% enrollment. But let's be honest, universal primary education is a modest target. You think of this country, and one of our speakers today talked about in Ontario that you have over 90% graduating at aged 18. What a step forward. Some countries in the world have got young people, particularly young women, not getting a chance to get any education. And until we get this right, we've got a major issue. And health promotion should be a global concept, so we all need to reflect sometimes. We can't always, in our own work, influence that directly. But when we're thinking about resources, and when we're thinking about the difficulties in our job, we should put it in a global context and remember how tough things are in some countries, that we're the lucky ones in a way, and we do need to help those who are less fortunate. And completion rates are low in many countries, so even though they might have improved their enrollment rates, they have a problem sustaining it. That the young people go to primary school, but they don't necessarily finish the course. And the one public health measure in a developing country that can have the biggest impact, it's an education measure. It's getting universal education for young women particularly, because you get the double effect of them being mothers as well as for their own personal benefit. And we learned this a generation ago, didn't we, in family planning movement, that used to do crazy things like give rewards like transistor radios, when in fact the thing that made a difference and was sustainable was education. So let's remember that link. Good news. We've learned that this week that some countries are beginning to see education policymakers are starting to see health promotion in schools as part of the agenda on quality improvement in schools. Can this be our opportunity for health promotion to integrate its objectives and indicators with education in a kind of symbiotic relationship? And Peter Paulus talked about the good and healthy school. That's what he was talking about in terms of this symbiosis, in a sense. And we now understand that educational attainment is inextricably linked to the health promotion agenda. And research shows that young people who are more engaged in the life of the school are less likely to be involved in high-risk behaviors. We also know that students who are most engaged, progressing academically, are more likely students who are most engaged in the life of the school, actively involved, there's links there with academic success. And alienation, students who don't attend school, students who attend but don't like school, we know the consequences in terms of both health and educational outcomes. And this isn't just a problem about young people being a problem. This is an issue for the schools. Schools are sometimes the problem, not the young people, or at least it's both sides. It's a two-way process. The International Union for Health Promotion and Education is involved talking about that point that just came up about promoting Francophone initiatives is 100% behind that. They see their role globally. They're a global organization. Although based in Paris, Europe, they're not a European organization, they're for the planet. And we've had some publications relating, if you don't know these, relating to school health that we've produced. I'll not go through them, but we want to build on the success of those, and we also, in one of the workshops today, we were looking at a document or at least a web resource on partnership working. In addition, we want to use the platform of the Thailand conference in 2013, the World Conference, to make sure that schools move on. Schools have really had a high profile in the last two conferences, in Vancouver, Canada, and in Melbourne, Australia. There was a real buzz about the schools strand, and we hope to keep that going. And it'd be great if as many of you as possible can attend that event. And then there's particular issues around integrating schools and the work we do there with the overall priorities that IUHP have on sustainable development, non-communicable disease, the social determinants of health, and the health promotion systems. I could say a lot more about that, but just to give you the overview. Then lastly, building on links with international partners. If I've left anyone out, and I apologize, these are examples, and we want to be inclusive, but there may be others that should have been mentioned here, and if that's the case, I apologize. They're the ones that I was aware of. I take responsibility for that. But you can see there who they are, the International School Health Network that Doug has been so active in nurturing, the Centre for Disease Control Atlanta, who have funded some of our work, the Educational Development Centre, Carmen Aldinger has been at the conference, the Public Health Agency of Quebec, Didier Jourdain's Teacher Education Initiative, which is an exciting development. All of these and more we want to support and be part of. Discussions are going ahead. I don't know if that's finalised with the International School Health Network and the Australian Health Promotion Schools Association Congress, and we want a profile at that in Sydney, September 2012. Helping to connect the health and education sectors, that's what this conference has been largely about, and helping individual projects like the Dutch one, Elisa Seithoff was here, on the class moves and physical activity in primary schools. I'd just like to finish, if I could have one more minute. One? She's the boss. She is the boss, and she's a good boss. I say that when she's holding that board and looking at me sternly. I'd just like to say a few quotes that I picked up from the event that stimulated my thinking. The Good and Healthy School, Peter Paulus. Louise Rowling today talking about evidence-based practice and practice-based evidence, drawing on what's actually happening in the school. Didier Jourdain, how do we redefine collectively the mission of the school? Philip Jonard said Africa is another world. I've just illustrated that. Philip Jonard counting on his fingers and getting into trouble from his teacher. and doing it behind his back. Yes, different learning styles. We're all different learners, and good teaching relates to that. Michel Janos spoke of education's role in fighting poverty and reducing inequalities and trying to influence the dropout rate. And Anne Burundi Barust talked about the passion, or demonstrated the passion. So maybe we need evidence-based action, but maybe we also need some of that passion-based action. There's a passion-based action. We need a bit of that PBA as well as the evidence-based action. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, organization conference, the organizers of the conference, I'd just like to thank you all and say it's been a privilege to play a small part in it, and thank you for your concentration at this late stage in the day. Thank you very much.